here's how to easily get round 100 on Astra Malorum. We're going to talk through early game, mid game, and then the main strategy itself, but in order to get into all that stuff, I've got to talk about loadouts and augments and everything that you need to do before your match. So first of all, to begin with, it's essential to have the Arrow 109 rocket launcher as your loadout weapon, because you cannot obtain it reliably from the mystery box in Astra. You're also going to want to use Ether Shroud, and I'd recommend using Extra Charge. And if you can also use Extension for your minor augments, I'd use that as well. And then when you're done setting Ether Shroud, you're going to flip over to PhD, and you're going to select the Double Whammy Major Augment, which causes a second explosion after a flop, and then the Stuntman Minor Augment, which is where wall jumping creates an explosion. If we then flip over to Vulture Aid, I'd recommend Armormatic and Condor's Reach. And Armormatic used to be much less good, but it was buffed in the Season 1 patch for the game, and now applies your armor plates much more economically, and so it's a very valuable pickup for this strategy. And because of this, I actually really struggle to see the strat working with anything but Armormatic and Condors. Other augments that we can flip over to are slightly less essential, but they're still really nice to have, are Turtle Shell on Jug, Hardened Plates and Durable Plates on Jug in the minor augment slots, and then the Sixth Sense Major Augment on Death Perception to take less damage from behind. And it's going to become pretty clear why that's the case once we get into the strategy. Then on Mule Kick, I'd recommend Pack Mule, allowing you to carry more stock ammo, which will reduce the risk of running out of rocket launcher ammo mid-round when we're doing the strategy. I'd also say Double Standard as your double tap major augment will mean that all your explosive damage will be doubled, as you won't be hitting any critical shots. Also, I'm assuming you're already using this, but put on Equivalent Exchange on Quick Revive. It's fantastic. Then for ammo mod, you can use whichever one you like on the rocket launcher, but I went in with Fireworks with the Starburst and Starlight augments, as these felt powerful in a strategy that involves camping in one position. I'd say that Cryo Freeze with Ice Cloud and Liquid Nitrogen would also be a strong choice to help slow zombies down before they get to you, but that obviously might then mean that the strat is ever so slightly slowed down as well, and so there's a trade-off there for safety versus speed. Other augments that would be beneficial but are in no way required are the Feather on Wisp Tea, and that will make the Wisp pick up items and power-ups for you. That's the final minor augment, so you might not have it unlocked yet. I'd also say Mask of Wrath on Wisp Tea for your demon to do more damage, or you can use the Fox because that will now revive you with all your perks, so that could be just a nice little bit of backup should you so desire. Finally, Electric Cherry on Elemental Pop is nice to have because we're going to be sitting in one spot. Then if we move over to Gobblegums, there's no gooning required for this. If you wanted to goon, you could use Perkaholic, Hidden Powers, gift cards, etc., but I would suggest you do it without gooning. It's good to break the habit once in a while, you know? So let's talk early game. Before we get too deep into the match, the first thing you need to be wary of is keeping the following two doors closed. You need this door shut, leading into the Abyssal Rim area, and you need this door shut, leading into the Abyssal Rim area. This will make zombies spawn a lot faster in the area where the strat takes place, and it also worked in my favor when it came to Oscar, and we'll show that later on. Now, to be clear, these doors don't need to be shut for the strat to work, but there's no need to open them, so we might as well keep them closed because they do just give you a speed increase. And this means that your access to the Observatory and Pack-a-Punch is going to be through the Astralis Machina side of the map on the right-hand side, where Mule Kick is. So with that in mind, go about your normal early game, opening up the rest of the map other than those doors, and getting your Pack-a-Punch machine spawned in by grabbing your two harmonic components. One thing that's nice about this strat as well is there's actually no need to get the Wonder Weapon unless you want it for some reason. So you do not need to waste time doing the quest. You don't need to waste time doing all the Oscar stuff. You can just focus on getting points and salvage and upgrading your rocket launcher and obtaining your perks. Now, because we're spawning in with it as a loadout weapon, you will need to upgrade its rarity, so make sure you are regularly hitting all the crystals around the map and getting the extra salvage from those, and you'll get to that threshold much faster. Another key thing to keep in mind here is that solely using the rocket launcher in the early game is gonna really be a pain in the butt, so I'd recommend using a wall gun or a gun from the box just to keep you going until you can start the strat, I went with the Nova line you can buy in the Luminarium. However, if you are playing in Cursed mode, you can buy the Akita in the Machina Australis area, and that's amazing for point farming. Now, as you're starting to build up your loadout through your match and getting towards that endgame loadout that you're looking for, I'd suggest picking either a pistol or one of the ray guns, the Mark 1 or the Mark 2, as your secondary weapon, as this is going to mean it's much more easy for you to proc equivalent exchange on quick revive. The reason we need to do this is later in the rounds, you're not going to be able to do enough damage with just a regular pistol that's unupgraded to actually proc equivalent exchange. And so having a ray gun means you pull that out when you're downed, and you can easily shoot into a zombie and get stood back up again and have 3 chances to save all your perks, which is really nice. Now, in terms of the perks we actually want to get in our game, obviously, Jug, Quick, Speed Cola, those are priority perks for the beginning of your match. But after those, get PhD, especially if you're getting a ray gun. PhD should be something that you prioritize. And I'd also prioritize getting Vulture Aid nice and early, because that's going to add to your ammo. It's going to add to your points total that you're going for. It's just going to generally make it a bit easier for you to get locked and loaded. You can also use TED trials through that early game period to get free perks. But one thing to be wary of is that I believe right now, if you save quit a game of Astra, the TED trials can glitch out, and they're just generally quite glitchy on this map. So you might have a TED trial that spawns in and then you can't activate it, or you can't grab the rewards. You just need to keep playing through your match, and you'll have future TED trials that will come accessible. And you might then be able to go back to the initial trial and hit that and have it activate and then get it out of the match so that it's not in the way anymore. But thankfully, the TED trials are non-essential. You can just do them optionally. And once you've got your essential perks and you got to a point where you feel happy with your upgrades, you can actually start the strat. And in my case, I started on round 15 with only 6 perks, which is really early for one of these strats. Normally, we start the strats pretty late into a match because there's early and mid-game setup we have to do, but that's a little bit less the case here. And I was surprised by this, but Sulky was the inspiration for this video and this strategy, and he showcased it, and I was like, oh, wow, that can get started super early. That's crazy. So that's what we're doing here. I'm doing it with a blue single-papped arrow. And the way the strat is going to work is you're going to come into the observatory dome, and next to the Pack-a-Punch machine, you're going to jump on top of this table, and you're going to be jumping onto this metal electric box thing to cause your first PhD explosion, and you then want to shoot your rocket launcher down and to the right of you on the floor next to the table, exactly like I'm doing in the gameplay here. Once you land, it will create another PhD explosion, along with the potential electric cherry burst from reloading, and this creates a massive swarm of AoE damage around you. 2 PhDs and a rocket and a cherry. Now, there's an art to this. It's not purely that simple, and you're not going to be able to do this without some tech involving Oscar, which I'll show you in a minute. But just for the core parts of the rounds where Oscar's not harassing you, you need to stay as close to the metal box as possible to avoid being flung off the table by zombies climbing up. Make sure you're moving forwards and towards the metal until you see that purple explosion. Otherwise, if you're facing or moving a different way, you might wall jump off the table and into the zombies, which would be really bad. And one thing that's actually nice about this is because you can start it early, you can do a few rounds to get the hang of it, and you'll then find a flow and you'll get it right 99.9% of the time. Now, this is why we went with Turtle Shell and Sixth Sense augments, because the zombies will be attacking you from behind, and both of those will absorb so much of that damage until you can get that rocket off. And then by using Armomatic, it means that we'll also be replenishing our armor as we go. Condor's Reach is also going to be massively helpful here because it's going to pick up ammo drops from zombies close to the table to ensure that you don't have to run to the ammo crate mid-round. But if you do happen to run out of ammo mid-round, pop an Ether Shroud or a Casimir or a Monkey Bomb, depending on what you've chosen as your tactical, and head to the ammo crate at the back of the room. It's very close by, so you'll have loads of time to get the ammo and then get back in position before your equipment or your Ether Shroud runs out. It's also a good idea to purchase ammo from the crate at the back of the room after every round, just because you're going to be making more than 5,000 points per round anyway, so it's better to be safe than sorry. But the question you've probably got next is, what do we do about Oscar, right? And especially because, for those of you that are unaware, Oscar, past round 51, gets very aggressive and comes and targets you no matter where he is on the map. He doesn't just slowly roam anymore, and he moves at a faster pace, so he can be very, very annoying. Now, the good thing about keeping those 2 Abyssal Rim doors shut is that you can actually have Oscar spawn in there and then get stuck. And that means that he will never leave. He'll just be there the entire time. And that's what happened in my game. However, that's not guaranteed to happen to you, so then what? Well, luckily there's a little sort of cheeky trick we can do, where if you lead him close towards the spawn, and then use the fast travel back to the observatory, he'll bug out and try to follow you through the portal and get stuck there for a pretty decent amount of time, like 20 plus minutes. And that will mean that you have a lot of time to go through a bunch of rounds before you need to get rid of Oscar again. So then in addition to everything I've just said, one way you can take Oscar out a little bit more conventionally is with hunter killer drones. And so the strat quite simply would be to destroy the UFO shields and then to chuck out a couple of hunters, and the wonder weapon will really kind of fry him from there. And this is what Freckleston's used actually to do a 2-player game, and that's in tier 3 on Cursed as well. But prior to rounds 51, you should just be taking him out normally, so destroy his UFOs and then just kill him with your Pack-a-Punch ray gun or what have you. And that way you'll cause him to die, obviously, but then respawn, and there's a chance that he just respawns in the locked Abyssal Rim again, and you'll be good at least for the time being. Now, before round 51, Oscar will just patrol the map very slowly, and if he does end up targeting you at any point, you can either just take him out like I just said, or you can actually just do a loop around the map to prevent him from following you. And then you can keep an eye on him in your TAC map if you're playing in standard mode to make sure that you don't come across him again on your way back to the observatory. So that's Oscar. Ravager rounds, you don't even need to do the wall jumping. You can just shoot the launcher at the floor by the table and you'll clear the round very fast. And also a warning for this is you shouldn't use Rampage. Okay, no Rampage in User. The reason is the heavy zombies become too bulky and they'll swarm the table you stand on, and it just becomes really difficult to pull off. The rounds are still going to pass really fast, so you might as well prioritize the safety in this regard. So that's a strat. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. And there's another strat actually that's been found that I'll also link on screen once we make a guide for it. And that gives you another option for getting your round 100 on Astra Malorum. But for now, this one has been used a ton by lots of folks in the community, and this is how you do it. So I hope this video was useful. Drop a like if it was, and click through to those other videos on screen now. I'll see you there. Bye for now.